You know, Dave Burkhardt on camera there likes to say that there's just no bad shot to be taken here.
But part of the reason we're here this week is because it's where a certain story we've been following for months and months finally reached its conclusion.
Yes, that'd be the story of how the Kansas City Ballet has reinvented the Nutcracker.
We've shown you how the sets and costumes were constructed all over the country. And now this week, you'll see how the whole thing came together.
Spoiler alert, it actually worked out really well, but that doesn't mean those last few weeks weren't pretty intense.
Better. Good. Up or around.
The entertainment part of it for me is so important that an audience would walk away from the experience feeling like that was an experience to remember beyond the moment of the curtain going down.
The raw materials for building that experience? Dancers, lots of dancers. And while nearly all the older ones at least have some Nutcracker in their history, learning the steps in Devon's all-new choreography is still a considerable task. Especially with a 22-performance run, which means everyone will learn multiple roles. With the opening curtain just 3 weeks away now, maybe nothing says crunch time at the Bolinder Center better than this.
There's just a lot of moving pieces that we're starting to put together. I mean, in one day I will run 6 or 7 different parts. The other day I ran 6 before lunch. You constantly have to know what part you're doing and be ready for that one. And I think he has done a very good job of making sure that we don't get overwhelmed by the sets and the costumes, that it's still about us.
But the buzz around this new Nutcracker comes in large part from the visual treat its makers have promised. This rainy Monday morning, trucks hauling sets and scenery from 4 different construction sites have docked at the Kauffman Center, so stage crews can start piecing the spectacle together. 48 hours later finds racks and boxes filled with newly sewn costumes offloaded and unpacked in the Bolinder's basement. For Ricky Lurie and Jennifer Carroll, the scene feels a whole lot like Christmas morning.
Here's a girl one, and they have different colors inside their ears. More snow. She ruched all the trim, and we're very, very pleased.
So yes, the tutus, vests, coats, and hats all look great to the naked eye. But on stage can be another matter. Hence this afternoon's costume parade, under the watchful eye of Holly Hines, the woman who drew them up in the first place. It's also the first time dancers and the staging have met face to face.
We go from flat to a mannequin to on a dancer, and they have to be able to move, and that can't be restrictive. And then you get on stage, now all of a sudden you're sitting back in row R, and maybe you can't see the buttons, or there isn't any sparkle. You're not done until you're done.
It was really exciting, and you could sense that energy in the dancers. They were having a great time. It was like show and tell. Oh, wow, look at your jewels, and yeah, look at my hat, and you know, it was kind of cool. I love that.
The credits on Holly's resume confirm she's one of the very best in the business. Not unlike the tall Frenchman, she coaxed into doing the scenic design. Though in recent years, Alain Vaez has focused more on children's books and exhibitions of his paintings.
This is my first project in 10 years. I was totally thinking I was never going to design again. And here I am, the bug came back. I've been working hard for the best of the last 8 months. And if it pays off, I mean, I'm really pleased.
There are all these puzzles. There's this costume puzzle, there's this scenic puzzle, there's the prop puzzle, there's the choreography puzzle, and it's my job to put all those pieces together. I'm the one that makes the costume go with the set, and the prop look dimensional when it's flat, and the choreography to pull the focus to where Devon wants the focus to be.
Tradd Burns has been Devon's go-to guy for making lighting magic on a number of productions in recent years. As for the Nutcracker, he lit his first one at 22. It's safe to say he's seen it performed many times since then.
Everybody had opinions about what they felt worked and didn't work with Nutcracker, and it's really great that we all could come together and come to agreement about what things we felt were important to include and not, and that brings it to a very different level.
It's not together. It's not like complete, you know, but we have the parts now and they're all in the same place, which is really, wow, it's just like something's coming soon, you know? It is so close.
How close is it? Well, at this point, only 9 days remain to get the balloon working, Drosselmeyer flying, all the entrances and exits smoothed out, before members of the Kansas City Symphony slide into the pit for dress rehearsal.
Yeah, I feel the weight of it, but I also know that this is an A-team between sets, costumes, lighting, the dancers. They are bringing their best work to the table. So you can't go wrong with that. Yes, am I nervous? Yes. Am I anxious? Yes. Am I getting no sleep? I mean, all those things are certainly a part of my life right now.
The sounds of Tchaikovsky's score pouring into the hall adds another important ingredient to that experience Carney's seeking to build. Flowers waltz. Clara and the partygoers party heartily. Mice get rowdy and mayhem ensues. And perhaps most impressively, the forest fills with snow.
Snow is my favorite section. To me, it's an important moment. It's the first time that we're really, truly in a different world.
Every time Devin comes in and says, well, this balloon's gonna come down during snow and take up the prince, I'm like, oh, my kids are gonna love that. Like, there's always that, I'm thinking about what my children will think about it, and I think they're gonna be blown away.
It's really about one day at a time and just taking it 8 counts at a time and knowing that the larger picture is gonna be good because of all this incredible talent that we've got.
This is the night the long countdown ends, bringing with it another key ingredient, audience energy. It's a full house, complete with lots of notables on hand, including Julia Irene Kaufman and Mayor Sly James. There's outgoing County Executive Mike Sanders, and yes, that's Mark Wahlberg from Antiques Roadshow. Turns out his daughter Goldie joined the company this year. Many have donned their holiday best, and nearly all are primed to be part of something that's never been seen before.
There's no more time to sew, there's no more time to paint, there's no more time to readjust the scenery or move a spike mark a little bit and move that chair 1 more inch this way. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. That gave me a bit of weakness in my knees at that moment, it really did.
The applause that greeted the opening curtain erupted again and again throughout the night, from the workshop scene to the Rat King's dramatic demise, through flurries of snowflakes, and on to gymnastic Russians, fluorescent Chinese, shepherds and some very cute sheep, the Sugar Plum Fairy, of course. One last goodbye to the balloon, and finally a thunderous curtain call for the entire cast and creative crew. Upstairs in Brandmeier Hall, the post-production party offered food, drink, and the chance to let off some steam.
And also we got to go upstairs.
By the time Jeff Bentley arrived, the executive director was almost walking on air.
It was everything we wanted it to be in terms of audience response, in terms of, you know, we've already, as of today, we've just opened this show. We made our goal, our revenue goal for the production. We've never done that before.
Beautiful, wonderful.
I think it's engagingly fresh. I think it's charming. But, I mean, the focus of it is the classical ballet that this company does so well.
Great box office, consistently good reviews, a boost to the company's image outside Kansas City. By most any metric, this huge endeavor was a huge success. Still, you have to wonder, is its chief architect already dreaming up changes for 2016?
It's only within my nature as a closet engineer to want to try and make it work better. Will I change the order of the show? No. Will I change Drosselmeyer and make him some old, decrepit man? Probably not. Will I make Clara an 18-year-old on point who dances her way through the whole show? No. The core of the show would, I think we got it pretty good on the first time up to bat, so yay, you know?
In case you missed some of the earlier glimpses behind the scenes, it's all available at our website. We call it Resetting the Stage.
And you know, in about 3 weeks, the company will be right back here to perform maybe the world's other best-known ballet, Swan Lake.